to the club. All right, thank you guys for joining us today. With me again, Joe Camacho. He's one of my favorite people with whom I work in this industry. Today, we're going to talk about the situation that many applicants to Divvy Home Rent-to-Own Program encounter when they try to apply for the program. What they do is they do an initial application, and within 5 minutes, they receive a rejection notice from Divvy Homes Program. They get they ask me questions about why this happened, how can I improve the situation, how can I reapply. To address all of these questions, we're going to talk today about preparing your credit for application with Divvy Homes Rent-to-Own Program, or what to do if you were rejected from Divvy Home Program due to credit issues. With me today, Joe Camacho. As I said, he's a credit analyst with the Phoenix Group here in DFW. So Joe, let me go ahead and jump into a small introduction. So guys, don't forget to like and subscribe, especially if you're interested in a topic of rent to own or in a topic of credit repair, because Joe is a frequent guest here and I'm hoping to continue to bring him on screen.
I appreciate it.
Yeah, I actually have contact information for Joe. It's at the end of the slide. So if you would, let's just jump right into a discussion. And then if you need Joe's contact information, more detail, it will be the last slide that we have. So let me very quickly go over the rent-to-own program with Divvy Homes. It is a program where you can submit an application. They allow you to go home shopping with a certain budget in hand, and then they purchase a home for you. You start to rent from them, and then you apply for an actual loan and buy the house back from Divvy Homes Rent-to-Own Program. And then once you purchase the home from Rent-to-Own Program, the home becomes yours and you get the title to the house. Sounds very simple on surface, but the usual stumbles start right at the beginning of the process, where people log into the application process and start to fill out the application. So let's look a little bit more closely at the program requirements and see where people usually stumble. So Divvy Home Rent-to-Own Program presents itself as a fairly simplistic process where if your FICO score is above 550, you can apply. Well, hypothetically, you could apply if your FICO is above 550, but that doesn't mean that you're going to get approved. The devil, as usual, is in the details. And the details is that Divvy Homes looks at specific FICO scores. And those FICO scores are FICO 2, FICO 9, and Vintage 4. It is those scores that need to be above 550. So just because you have a notice from some other program, let's just say you're subscribing to My FICO or you're subscribing to Credit Karma, and they say, oh, your credit score is 580, that doesn't mean that you are in compliance with those requirements. Then they ask for 3 months of documented employment, no bankruptcies, evictions, or short sales in the last 12 months, and the rest you can see on my screen. So today we're going to look at this part of the application called initial questionnaire. And during that part of the application, about 40 to 50% of applicants actually get a rejection letter. So what Divvy does is Divvy does an instant soft credit pull on top of the qualification questions, and within 5 minutes, you get a pass-fail result. So this is where we're going to talk today, because if you pass that part, you're probably not interested in this video. It's only if you fail this part, this is where the problems start. So Joe, let me bring you in. Okay, I have an applicant. Even this morning, the applicant contacted me and said, I'm interested in the program. I said, what's your FICO score? And he said, my FICO is showing me at 620. And I said, go ahead and apply. He applied and he said, I got the rejection letter, and it said due to credit requirements. So he said, what did I do wrong? Because I thought that my credit score was pretty good. So can you tell me about FICO 2, 9, and Vintage 4, and how can we work with finding out what those scores are ahead of time?
So a lot of times what we have is a lot of different variations of scoring models, especially with banking institutions, credit card companies. Chase uses Journey, Capital One uses CreditWise. Really, what are you looking at to determine, hey, I had a 620 or a 650? So, you know, with a Credit Karma, that uses a VantageScore 3.0. They are going to be upgrading the version to a 4. So the 4.0 version, but where does FICO 2, FICO 9 fall into? FICO 2 is actually going to be what a lot of the lenders use for Experian on the mortgage side of things. So when you log into a website, let's say like Experian.com, the first set of numbers when you go and upgrade the account, you're looking at a FICO 8 model. Now, a FICO 8 model is only going to be utilized for credit monitoring, kind of like a Credit Karma Vantage Score 3.0. Vantage Score 3.0 is just kind of give you that baseline and an alert system just to kind of see what's on the credit report, but not a whole lot of details. Obviously, it's quite skewed. What people are always asking me, Joe, what type of FICO score, what's my real FICO score? Like, what's my real score? Well, I always tell anybody, especially working with Divvy applicants, is that you want to look at FICO 2, 4, 5, the mortgage model scores. Hence why Divvy's requiring a FICO 2 in that scoring model. What we can do is we actually have like Experian.com. If you were to upgrade the account, you can go ahead and change the FICO ratings inside the website.
So wait, let's repeat that. That's important. So they can create an account with Experian. They can upgrade their account.
Correct.
And there is some kind of selection, right? That they can
Correct.
choose. Okay, that's interesting. I didn't know that. Okay.
There's additional scores inside the website. Okay. So it asks you to put payment information in there, guys. You're going to get a free credit report. It's going to be a 7-day trial. So you get to have all the bells and whistles without any cost, $0. So once you upgrade the account, yes, you'll have to put your payment information, but remember, after you're done viewing all your information, you simply just cancel the account out. It'll ask you why you want to cancel it. Just say, hey, I was curious, whatever it may be. And then that way you can shuffle it over. So when you look at a FICO 8 on Experian.com, okay, that's my monitoring score. Mm-hmm. But then you go down to the additional scores and it's going to have a selection for credit cards. It's going to have a selection for auto and then one for mortgage. Because the majority of, well, I would say about 99.9% of lenders across the US use a FICO 2 for their Experian pool, they're going to be able to show you right out of the gate. Now, a lot of times, a lot of people see that variance and like, whoa, what happened? The FICO 8 was, like a 640, but now I'm a 572 on the FICO 2. You have to remember, a lot of things are measured differently. I wouldn't use a FICO 2 mortgage model if I was going to apply for a FICO 9, like let's say credit card model, or a FICO 2 credit card model. And then there's a FICO 8 auto model. There's, I'm not going to use a credit card scoring model if I'm going to go try to get a personal loan, or vice versa. Or I'm not going to use a credit card scoring model to buy a car. They're going to be weighing differently on different things on your credit report. That's why I always say the FICO 2 is going to be the best, because that's where a mortgage company is going to utilize in order to entrust you with literally hundreds of thousands of dollars.
But well, that's FICO, right? What about that's Vantage? So if we go, so there's 3 scores, right? Mm-hmm. If we go to Experian.com and we create that account and we even upgrade it, can we see all 3 scores or just Vantage or just FICO 2?
We could see the FICO 2. Unfortunately, Experian is not going to make Equifax or TransUnion look good, which means that you're only going to have the FICO 8 version of TransUnion and Equifax. So Experian obviously wants to make themselves look a lot better than and superior than the other 2. So that's the reason why. Now, if you're wanting to look at an Advantage, like a Vantage 4, Credit Karma is a great resource. The only problem with Credit Karma, though, it's only going to give you Equifax and it's only going to give you a TransUnion. A lot of different creditors now are using the Vantage scoring model because it's a free model, kind of like the FICO 8, strictly used for monitoring. A lot of folks don't utilize it in the financial sector. So I know that, I believe American Express is even using a Vantage scoring model as well, too. A lot of these credit card companies that offer free credit monitoring are typically going to be using the Vantage score. What I always like to tell everybody is that when you have these issues on your credit report, if I'm looking at a FICO 2 on Experian.com and my FICO 2 is sitting up there in those 6s, it's fair to say that you're almost going to be a shoo-in
Mm-hmm.
for those other two for Equifax.
So you think that checking FICO 2 is kind of like maybe first step that we should take, because if FICO 2 is super low, then we're not probably going to get very high FICO 9.
I think pulling all 3 credit reports with Experian.com would be a great first step. Yeah, so that way we can look at detailed reports for Equifax and TransUnion. That way we can look at the FICO 2 and look at the different other variations that they have on them for the scoring model. So we can really get a good assessment of what's on my credit report. Because at the end of the day, yes, we do want to get qualified for the Divvy program, but we also want to get the best possible score so we can obtain the best possible rate.
Correct. We're actually going to get a little bit. So this video is going to get be focused primarily on just getting to the FICO score enough to even qualify for the program in the first place. And
Right.
then we have an additional hurdle to overcome, which is going to be covered in the next video, guys, so stay tuned. Because if you pass the first hurdle, your FICO score is high enough to actually qualify for a program. The second hurdle to jump over would be to qualify for a minimum monthly payment. This is going to be the next video that we're going to go into those details. But for right now, so Joe, imagine that you are applying your best friend for this program. Imagine that your best friend needs a house and you say, let's try this house. So what kind of plan of action would you tell him to do? Go here, do this, do this, do this.
Right. Start off with the Experian report, obviously.
Okay, so we pull the Experian report, okay?
And then obviously upgrade the account, place your payment information into the account, pull all 3 credit reports. You can save them as a PDF file so you can view them at a later date. Cancel the membership so you don't require any additional fees, because it will be a $30 fee. And then also create a Credit Karma account in order to access the Vantage score. It's the easiest that I found. I personally have one too. I have an Experian.com as well too. So that would be able to, so having those 2 different sites and those platforms, that would be able to cover all of Divvy's minimum requirements.
Okay, alrighty. And then we'll look, once we have the account with Experian, we go down to some kind of selection, which allows us to select mortgage, and we can see FICO 2 right there, correct?
Yeah, it'll be under additional scores.
Will be under additional scores. Okay, you got that, guys? That's free information for you. Enjoy, courtesy of this channel. So let's then look at, okay, so we looked at our FICO scores, FICO 2, FICO 9, Vintage 4, and let's just say one is showing 540, and another one is showing, maybe Vintage is showing 560. Obviously, between 540 and 560, we're probably not going to get qualified. So why do a soft credit pool instead? Maybe we should focus on trying to bring the scores up a little bit. So which brings me to the next question. Actually, let's skip this question because you already answered it. How are we going, what options do we have to show those specific, because there's, as you said, there's a variety of scoring models. How do we actually show up those specific credit scores?
Say it one more time.
So most consumers, when they say, I want to bring up my credit score, right? What I tell them is that you actually have no idea which credit score you're trying to bring up, right? Because by simply making 2 extra payments to your credit card does not necessarily bring the right credit scores.
To increase our credit scores.
To increase, yes, to increase our credit scores, but not just any credit scores, What options do they have to get this FICO 2, FICO 4, and Vintage 9, those scores up? Because we don't care about any other scores at this point.
What you want to do is create a mixture of credit. So the number one thing is that, do I have established lines of credit? So not just to bring up your FICO score, you have to remember there's going to be different models and different requirements. The easiest way to establish credit and to start and to qualify for the Divvy requirements and to increase that credit score would be a credit card, a line of credit. But how do we know we qualify for that? There are multiple tools that are on the internet. That's something that I can assist with you guys with. We're getting pre-qualifier links, even a secured credit card. I know a lot of times people don't, like the fact of a secure credit card because they've talked to their bank. A banking institution has told them, oh, we're going to need you to deposit $1,000. Well, wait a minute, I don't have $1,000. There's other credit card companies that are out there who will take $49 and still give you a $300 line of credit. That's going to create payment history, which is going to increase your credit score. That's going to stimulate all of your FICO ratings, but it also does stimulate the Vantage score as well, too. Vantage score is going to actually weigh a little bit more heavier on payment history. Payment history accounts for 35% of your credit score. So now we're stimulating one, we've opened a positive line of credit. We're going to, once we open up that credit card, we're going to discuss how to utilize it correctly. A lot of people say, well, Joe, I know how to spend money and pay it off. Well, there's a little bit of a science that goes to that, because what you want to do is be able to make sure, well, one, when I make that payment, when is it going to reflect with the bureaus? What type of credit utilization should I be utilizing? Because then because you can open up a credit card, but next thing you know, you're watching your Vantage score and your FICO do a little bit of a seesaw action.
Actually, I will interrupt you for a second. I had a lady who was trying to improve her credit score, so she decided to pay off a couple of her medical debt bills, and she said my credit score dropped by 40 points. So do you know, like, can you briefly kind of touch upon that? So some people do things that they think are beneficial, but end up hurting themselves.
What happens with most consumers, one of the number one things that I can say a consumer does is they'll Google, how do I fix my credit? How do I increase my credit score? What you're going to find on Google is a lot of articles that have been written, and I know it sounds crazy, but creditors specifically have writers that will put into information out there that would say the number one thing that you will find, pay your bills.
So it's not information that they're putting out technically disinformation?
Correct.
Oh, wow, that's pretty strong.
Well, I mean, so when you pay your bills, I pay gas, I pay water, I pay electric, I pay internet, I pay cable. I paid those bills. Do those bills help me increase my credit?
Probably not.
No. But
because they're not being reported, right?
But the verbiage specifically in the article says, pay your bills. So now the consumer is led to believe, well, maybe they're talking about those collections I haven't paid. So now when we start paying those collections, and we're assuming as a consumer, because we're not highly educated in how this credit works, I'm thinking, okay, well, if I pay this collection account, they should take it off my credit report, right? Because I took financial.
Yeah, my credit score should go up, right? That's
exactly
what I would assume too if I was the consumer.
But the collection agency is held accountable to consumer law to update the account as a paid zero balance collection. So here we have, let's say we have a collection, like an old electric bill, and it's on my credit report, and I go and I pay the money, but that collection is 4 years old. So I have a 2018 collection sitting dormant on my account. That collection agency who applied it to your credit report paid a fee to each of the 3 bureaus to establish on your credit report. Each month, they have an opportunity to pay the fee again in order to update it monthly. Now, why would a collection agency do that? They're not going to burn money. That's throwing money away. It's a collection. You didn't pay the electric company to begin with. Why would I continue to keep paying the bureaus to update the account? So now it says dormant. Now it becomes this sleeping giant. We can see it on the credit report. And the moment that you contact the collection agency because you think you're doing a good thing and you make a payment, what do? You wake up that giant. Now what it has is a date of last activity. The date of that last activity is when the account was established on the credit report back in 2018. What you've done is woke up the account, and the DLA, the date of last activity, has been now updated to 2022. Your score just took roughly, depending on how many accounts you have on your credit report, about a 40 to 60 point plunge. That's where a lot of people are like, and I've seen people spend thousands of dollars, like literally thousands of dollars, to now fall hundreds of points. And they're like, what's happening? And it's because, well, yeah, you're stirring all these things up. You took a 4, 5, 6 year old collection account, and what did? You brought it to the surface again. Or you went to go settle out with an original creditor and with an old credit card, that charge off account, and they're obligated now to update it. Now, that's a win. It's a kind of a win-lose situation with credit cards with charge offs, because that's incorrect utilization. I had a $300 credit card. It's on my credit report for $600. I settle it out. The utilization now is at 0. It's not above 300. So your score will take a jump up. But collections are notorious for dropping credit scores like that. So it's always sad to hear.
So that brings me to the next point. I have observed people over and over and over again who get rejected by Divvy because their credit score was just like 2 points below what Divvy wanted. And then they go in and I tell them, hey, here's Joe's contact information, contact Joe. They said, oh no, thank you. I'm already working with somebody. I'm like, okay, that's fine. 5 months later, I ask them, so how is it going? And they say, well, actually my credit score dropped. And that is the sad part, that people try to take things into their own hands and not, it's almost like me trying to fix my own car. I think that I know what I'm doing, but we have no idea if the car is ever going to start again, right? So how can somebody like you actually help them to prep their credit?
Well, well, obviously being partnered with you, Elena, I get you to offer a free analysis. A lot of times, a lot of people assume that because you're inviting them to speak with me, that there's going to be some cost associated because everybody wants to, get a dollar out of me. I'm here as a resource. What I want to do is I want to be able to perform a free analysis and to be able to give you that free advice. If I can empower a potential buyer and a potential Divvy applicant with some just good credit education and some unbiased professional advice, I just literally before we came on, I was giving advice to a potential, spend 20 minutes with a potential buyer. He found me on Google. And, I was able to give him this information and I said, listen, if you do all this, execute this, you'll be able to get back in your lender's hands probably in about 2.5 weeks. But you have, and I gave him all the tools and I gave him spend 20 minutes of his time because that's not a good candidate for me on my program. That's just somebody who really needs some good direction. And I know that's a lot of where a lot of folks are out trying to make a dollar, right? Where they'll sign up anyone and everyone. That's not what we're based around. We're here to be an asset and to be utilized as a tool. So that way you guys are going to get real, true education just to get those minimum requirements. So I would say, how do we prepare for our, when we go to apply for Divvy, get an analysis done. Let's make sure that we have all our things in order. You can have already established lines of credit, but maybe those lines of credit are not fully maximized to their fullest potential. There's a like I said, there's a science to it. When somebody asks me, well, I just paid them all off to 0. Well, don't. You actually lose points when you pay a credit card off to 0. And they're like, what are you talking about? I paid all my debt off. And I said, well, yeah.
I hear that a lot. They said I closed all my credit cards. And I'm like,
oh, that's
great.
the worst. That's the worst.
That's great for you. Now you have to start from the beginning.
Eliminating the temptation of utilizing that credit card, it is not, you're eliminating payment history when you close it off. Payment history accounts for 35% of your credit score. So that if you have a credit card that's 6, 7, 8, 10 years old, and you go to, finally, I paid it off and I close it off. Well, you just lost those 6, 7, 8 years. It closes off and then your score just takes a huge, especially if that one account was your #1 workhorse on your credit report. Most people, when I talk to them, they usually have an automobile they've been paying for a few years, but they have very recent open lines of credit. So the thing is, it's like, well, I'm going to pay off my car because that's going to help out, increase my my score because I'm going to pay off my debt. Well, the problem is that if that car has been open for 3 years or 4 years, you've been paying on it, and you only have
without ever missing a payment, right? But good payment history.
Good payment history, that's right. But you have a credit card that's only been open, let's say for 1 year. Once you pay off that account, that auto, that vehicle, what's going to happen? It's like credit. I always tell people this: credit is on a swivel. The moment that you close out the auto, it's going to shift to the next thing that's going to be applying positive payment history. Well, I just took a 4-year-old or 3-year-old auto that I was paying, and I thought, oh, I'm going to pay off all my debt because I got a nice little lump sum of money that's going to increase my score. Let's pay it off. Well, you closed out that 3-4 years, and now you're only focused on the more recent one, the 1-year-old credit card. So that's why people see they're slowly climbing up, and then all of a sudden, oh, I paid off my car. I just took probably, I would say in the ballpark between 35 to probably about 55 points you'll take a hit on. Now, if you have a credit card that has 3, 4, 5 years, the same equal or greater payment history than the vehicle, then you'll take a small dip, about 50 to 60 points, but in about 25 to 35 days, your score will shoot back up. Because again, it's refocused.
See, I actually blame some of the websites because they give projections like your credit score is X. What happens if you pay off this and you pay off this? So instead of actually going to somebody who can look at what they're trying to accomplish and asking for a professional advice, they just look on the website and say, if you pay off your credit, if you pay off your car, if your credit score is going to increase by X, and they just take that advice at the face value. But before we go too deep into those mechanics, so let's just say that I'm an applicant. Okay, I pulled my credit report with Experian. I feel like I probably need to shore up my credit by about 50 to 80 points before I'm ready to apply. I call you. Let's just say we go through a few items. We do this preliminary discussion completely for free, correct? If I understand correctly. So, and let's just say that you do feel like we need to dig a little bit deeper and figure out what's really going on with the credit. Maybe I do have some outstanding collections. What's the next step? How else can you help me? What is it going to look like? I might have to kind of give you my bills. Like how would it look like to work with you? Explain, like give me an example.
If someone, let's say that free advice doesn't get us to those minimal requirements for the Divvy program, we need a little bit more work. We need to kind of, when I say the big guns, kind of step in myself. I'm going to go ahead and offer you guys a free consultation.
Okay.
That consultation is going to be the full breakdown of how I'm going to be able to put you back on track of a well-qualified buyer to exceed those Divvy minimum requirements. I'm going to spend about 2 to 2.5 hours, sometimes 3 hours with you on a conference call. I always ask any potential buyer, give me your undivided attention. If you need to schedule it in the evening when you get off of work, hey, I'm okay with that. But we're going to have undivided attention. We're going to have a pen and paper because you're going to have notes. You can have your laptop out. You can take those notes. You're going to have homework. I'm going to be able to set all the realistic expectations of all the different things that we're going to be able to accomplish. But we're also going to cover your ground rules, your responsibilities, things that you're going to have to maintain throughout the program in order to be able to go ahead and maximize those scores to the fullest potential. The way I'm going to help you is to be able to disclose what kind of game plan that we're going to utilize as far as how we're going to hold creditors accountable, how we're going to go after finance companies, how we're going to help you with those late pays, how we're going to eliminate some of that debt that's tied up in the collections that's also affecting your purchasing power, how we're going to open established new lines of credit. If I also see that you're paying too much for your car note, then I'm going to help you refinance that vehicle. If you have student loans that are in default, or if you have them, they're kind of killing you, getting a little bit overwhelming, I'm going to help you do student loan consolidation. All these things are going to be laid out specifically tailored for you and your credit file, not just for the Divvy minimum requirements, but also to set you up for long-term effects. Now, if you love what the game plan we've disclosed to you, and again, we're going to offer this consultation free of charge, then you can roll into the services. The cost of services are going to be taken on a case-by-case basis based on how much work is going to be implemented into the credit file. That's going to be the number one thing. One, I want to determine, do I foresee a level of success? Because that's why I'm going to give you that consultation. Not going to waste your time, not going to mislead you, lie to you. I have a great relationship with Elena and Keller Williams. Obviously, I'd like to keep that relationship healthy. So we're here to see if we can just give you the free advice. If we can't, if we need a little bit, meaning like we can't get it resolved or if those increases based on that free advice, then we'll move to the consultation. You like what you like or like what you hear, then obviously that we can enroll into the services. The services usually range, I think the lowest one we've done this year was about $755. We had a gentleman who had probably the highest one so far this year for about $4,200. I know that's a pretty big range when people hear that. But the thing is that we're looking at sometimes very extreme worst case scenarios, things that he put off for years that we had to do consolidation. He had federal tax liens. We had things that we had to go after that are part of not typically your normal stuff. So, you know, if it's something where it's like, well, I really want to get this house, Joe, Let's just use a round number, like if it was $1,500 to fix our credit.
Mhm.
I work with folks on disability, SSI, SSID, fixed incomes. I do a lot of hometown hero programs where educators that are that and military personnel that get paid once a month. If I can need to construct a payment, well, I'm gonna allow you to construct a payment arrangement, but if I need to break it up into a payment arrangement that works specifically with your budget, we're gonna make it happen for you. Because if I can work with those folks, I have a client right now who's on a widow's pension. Very limited funds each month, but she was determined to become a homeowner this year, and we were able to assist her. So guys, there's a lot of great options. Our main concern, can we assist you? Can we foresee that high level of success, and how can we make it work with your budget?
Okay, sounds good. So guys, this was Joe Camacho, and as I promised, his contact information is here. Go ahead and jot it down. Also, I'm going to take his contact information and put it in the links below with a direct link to his website and his. Do you want me to put your email out there? Or do you want me to kind of just have it on the spot?
Yeah, the email is fine.
Email is fine. Okay. Cool.
Anybody can reach out to me. I'm typically in the office, and don't make fun of me like I don't have a life, but I'm typically in the office.
You don't have a life, yeah. Sorry. You and me, we don't have a life.
Well, we help a lot of buyers, so
yes, we're helping so much that our own needs sometimes become
so I'm usually in the office between 8 a.m. till about 8 or 9 p.m. I work Monday through Saturday. No questions too dumb. We encourage everybody to reach out, ask us a ton of questions. We'll have a ton of answers for you.
Sounds good. Thank you so much, Joe. And guys, before you go, we have a second portion of this video, which we're about to go to a second set of slides, because once you get over this initial hump, which is 550, FICO 2, FICO 4, and Vantage 9, guess what? You're not done yet, because then comes a second hit called minimum monthly rent requirement. So stay tuned. I'm going to put the link to that video in the description below. Like and subscribe. Talk to you soon. Thanks, Joe. See you at the next video.